the Palestinians have proven throughout their struggle against the Israelis that this movement, this idea, this resistance is not tied to a person. It is tied to the movement itself. It's tied to the concept itself, that the Palestinians insist on gaining their freedom and independence, on gaining and confronting the Israeli menace, in confronting the Zionist idea of supremacism, of racism, of terrorism, of targeting them. And therefore, when one leader falls, another will rise. And we've seen this in Hamas. Hamas, as I said earlier, they faced assassinations, many assassinations in the past. Their first founder and leader, Ahmed Yassin, was assassinated. The one who replaced him was assassinated. Most of their leaders after that were subject to either assassination attempts or were eliminated by the Israeli terror network. So it's not surprising that today Hamas loses Ismail Haniyeh, and tomorrow there will be another person carrying that torch. Hamas is capable of producing many leaders. It's a very structured, very disciplined, very organized movement that has proven that it conducts elections and brings leaders to the forefront. It has many branches around the world, and it's no doubt, in my mind, there is no doubt that Hamas, another Hamas leader, will pick up that torch, will start leading this movement within a few days. The history of Israeli assassinations targeting Palestinian leaders goes decades. Every major Palestinian resistance movement has been affected by Israel's targeted assassination work. We have seen this happen to Fatah. Most of their senior leadership have been targets in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s, with Abu Jihad in the 80s, Abu Iyad in the 90s. Even it is rumored that Arafat himself was assassinated and poisoned. We've seen this also with Islamic Jihad. Its first General Secretary, Fatah Shiqaqi, was assassinated in 1995. We've also seen it throughout the past 25 years. Many Hamas leaders have been assassinated by Israel. Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, the founder, Dr. Abdulaziz al-Rantisi, who succeeded him, and many other leaders. So Ismail Haniyeh comes from this tradition of people who have dedicated their lives for the cause of Palestine, for Palestinian freedom and independence. And so it's not surprising that they would be targeted, that he is targeted. What is surprising, of course, is the time and place of this assassination, being in Tehran and being at a time when Tehran was celebrating the inauguration of its president. That shows the type of mentality, thuggish mentality of Israel. We're talking about a mafia type work. Israel does not respect whatsoever any kind of international conventions, does not respect international law, does not respect any country's sovereignty. Most of these assassinations, and they have been in the hundreds. There is a book called Rise and Kill First, and it details about 800 assassinations, not attempts. There have been many other attempts. The point here is that this is a tradition, this is a policy that have been instituted for decades. And again, it comes from this ideology, which is a supremacist, racist, terrorist ideology that is trying to replace the Palestinians, dispossess the Palestinians, is trying to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. Not only 1948, we are seeing it before our own eyes right now in Gaza. So that's what Ismail Haniyeh represents. He knew that this is something that he could be subjected to. People who go through that path understand that to gain your freedom, to gain your independence, comes with a heavy price. He's already paid a heavy price before he was martyred. His children, his grandchildren, almost 60 members of his immediate family have been targets of Israeli ethnically cleansing them during this war of genocide. So that's what it is. He expects that he could pay that heavy price, and he was willing to pay because he believed deeply in the cause, in the justness of the Palestinian cause. I think Palestinians likewise understand that. So his martyrdom also means for the Palestinians is that this is a path that's going to come with paying the ultimate price, that freedom and independence and freeing your people and getting back your land does not come just simply by demanding it. It comes through this path of sacrifice. We have seen this also in Gaza. Over 50,000 people have either been ethnically cleansed, killed, murdered, or under the rubble. We have seen it also throughout the history of the Palestinian cause. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have lost their lives because they insist on not surrendering. They insist on not giving up the struggle. They insist to restore and to return back to Palestine. I do not believe Netanyahu or his war criminal cabinet ever intended to negotiate in good faith for the release of the captives. I think all along, this was a ruse. This was an attempt by Netanyahu to prolong the war. So he's been changing the posts. He's been changing the rules of the negotiations. I don't think he ever negotiated in good faith. We have seen recently how he is demanding now new conditions on things that have already been agreed upon through the mediators months ago. It was very evident, very clear to anyone who was listening during his speech to Congress that he has no intention in continuing any kind of meaningful negotiations that would lead to the release of the captives on both sides. He sets his goals, which are not realistic and will never be achieved, as Hamas surrender, the dislodging of Hamas from the rule of Gaza to make it politically unviable or irrelevant, and to release all the hostages through either military means or by giving up that card on the, or leverage on the part of the resistance. None of these would take place, none of these will happen, and therefore there will be no negotiations, no settlement. And I think what he did today by assassinating the leader of Hamas, the person that he was negotiating with, is that he buried that option. Unless international powers, particularly the United States or other regional powers, put tremendous pressure on Israel to rein in Israel, to change that kind of behavior and to change what it's been demanding, there will be no meaningful settlement to speak of. Every country has security lapses and intelligence failures. What happens here is that the whole intelligence world, the whole Western intelligence world, has been put to the service of Israel. So it's not beyond understanding or analyzing or concluding that the whole intelligence services of the Western world has been put at the disposal of Israel to use. Israel could perform this assassination in Qatar, in Turkey, in other places, but it chose Tehran because it has a meaningful, to them, symbol. It symbolizes Tehran, Iran, symbolize the leader of the resistance, so-called resistance axis, and therefore assassinating Haniyeh in Tehran through a missile that's probably one of the most advanced missiles that they could use. It's not an Israeli-made missile. It's probably most likely an American-made missile, the state-of-the-art technology coming from a neighboring country, most likely Azerbaijan, because of the distance and because there is an Israeli base there. That could signal not only that they can say that they have reformed their intelligence apparatus, which failed miserably on October the 7th. They can say that we have restored deterrence because we can get the head of the resistance movement, but we also did it in the capital of the axis, the axis of resistance in Iran itself, which has another symbolic meaning. And I think all that calculated in the mind of Netanyahu, and I think that will backfire. That will not be something that will be taken lightly. Iran is not going to stand still. Iran will certainly retaliate, and so will also the other members of the axis of resistance, including Hezbollah, who have been aggressed upon just a day earlier. I don't think the Israeli terror network has access to the leaders in Gaza who are probably underground in the tunnels. If they had access to them, they would certainly be targeted, and I have no doubt that they would be targeted throughout their lives. But Haniyeh also represents the head of Hamas. I think that's why he was targeted. He wasn't targeted because of any particular thing he did. Most people know and are certain that he didn't even know about October 7th. That the people who knew about October 7th, planned it, and carried it out are probably a handful of people and who are probably underground right now. But he is still the political head of Hamas. So assassinating him will have a huge symbolic value for that Israeli spirit that has been dispirited, that has been living in a shock since October 7th. They needed to restore that image of Israeli invincibility with the intelligence failures they faced on the day of October 7th. They wanted to restore that image that they could still be the hegemon, they could still control the region, they could still call themselves the strongest army in the Middle East and all that. So this was part of that restoration of that image, which I think is not happening. And after 10 months of genocide and of the destruction of civil life, of civic life in Gaza, they couldn't even defeat Hamas. They are in a war of attrition today, not only on one front in Gaza, but throughout the region. In the north against Hezbollah, in the south against the Houthis, in other places against some Iraqi resistance and possibly Iran. And I think we are now in a danger even of widening this war, because Netanyahu does not want to end this war. Ending this war is going to bring him to account. There will be inquiries in which he will be held accountable to the failures of October 7th. He will be ousted from his position. I think there is a huge danger also, and probably certainty, that he would go to prison because of the corruption charges pending against him, in addition to the humiliation they face. So it's in his interest to prolong this war by making these fake confrontations, by assassinating people, in the hope that this will somehow ignite the region, and with the hope that he can drag the United States into this fight in order to save the day. He's also interested to prolong this war to make sure that the Democratic Party would be defeated and Trump would come back to power, because he trusts that he would get more things from Trump that he would get even from this senile president who has given him everything that he wanted, including all the arms and the ammunition and the political protection and political cover, and that and diplomatic protection. Even that by itself was not enough for him. So he's looking to defeat the Democrats. And one way to do that is to ignite this war, prolong this war, and make sure that it stays until election day.